Afternoon. Thank you for being here with us today. My name is Jason Goodrich. I'm the Director of Public Safety and Chief of Police here at the University of Cincinnati. I have some prepared remarks to share with you regarding the incident that occurred last night, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Lieutenant Colonel Whalen from Cincinnati PD is also here. He is coordinating the investigation, and we'll have some remarks as well for you, and we'll have a short time for some questions at the end. At approximately 6:30 last night, a University of Cincinnati police officer conducted a traffic stop near the intersection of Rice and Valencia Streets, which is about 1 mile from UC's campus. This violation occurred near the intersection of Vine and McMillan, which is just on the edge of campus. So the initial violation occurred right on the edge of campus, and the police officer followed that vehicle to the place where the traffic stop concluded, which is near the intersection of Rice and Valencia. The officer that was involved in last night's incident is Officer Ray Tenzing. Officer Tenzing has more than 5 years of experience in law enforcement. He's worked for the University of Cincinnati Police Department since April of last year. Officer Tenzing did suffer some minor injuries at the scene and was treated and released from the hospital last night. Officer Tenzing has been placed on administrative leave with pay per our policy PEO 6. The driver of the car has been identified as 43-year-old Samuel DuBois. Lieutenant Colonel Whalen will give you some more specifics as far as the investigative process, but what I would like to do first is kind of walk you through some of the elements as we understand them currently. Officer Tenzing was sitting in his police cruiser off of Vine Street, which is near the edge of campus. At approximately 6:29, he noticed that the vehicle driven by Mr. DuBois did not have a front license plate. Officer Tenzing then began to follow Mr. DuBois and ran a query to check for vehicle registration and pending warrants. It was determined that the car was registered to a female as well as not having the front license plate. So Officer Tenzing followed Mr. DuBois and attempted to initiate the traffic stop at Vine Street and Thill. Mr. DuBois continued and turned left off of Vine Street onto Thill and continued to where the street turns into Rice. Shortly after turning onto Rice, Mr. DuBois pulled his car over and stopped for Officer Tenzing. Officer Tenzing approached the vehicle and asked Mr. DuBois multiple times to please provide a driver's license. During the conversation, Mr. DuBois produced a bottle of alcohol from inside the car, handing it to Officer Tenzing, but was unable to produce a driver's license. When Mr. DuBois did not produce a driver's license, Officer Tenzing asked him to exit the vehicle. At this point, from what we can tell, a struggle then ensued. Officer Tenzing fired one shot from his duty weapon and was knocked to the ground. The vehicle continued in motion down Rice Street to the intersection of Rice and Valencia, where it came to rest. Mr. DuBois suffered a gunshot wound to the head and was pronounced dead at the scene. At this point, I'd like to ask Lieutenant Colonel Whalen to talk about the investigative process.
As Chief Goodrich mentioned, this incident occurred last night starting about 6:30. Chief Goodrich called and asked the Cincinnati Police Department to take on this investigation, and we agreed to do so. We followed our normal investigative processes up to this point, and we continue to investigate this case. We mutually felt it was important to provide as much information and be as transparent as we could as we made our way along, but there are still important things yet to do in this investigation. We processed the scene, both the physical scene, the geography, and the layout of the area where this incident occurred, primarily down Rice Street from Thill down to Valencia. We processed the car. The Hamilton County Coroner's Office took possession of Mr. DuBois' body and the things that he had in his possession at that time. We canvassed the area for witnesses. We located a number of primarily neighbors who had various perspectives to offer on what they had seen and heard. We still have yet to take statements from the officers that are involved. The Officer Tenzing has a contractual right to wait 24 to 48 hours to give a statement when involved in a critical incident like this. And after consultation with the FOP Council, has chosen to exercise that right and has done so. So we are awaiting a phone call right now from the FOP Attorney's Office for the University of Cincinnati Police to set up that interview. There were 2 additional University of Cincinnati police officers that pulled up just prior to the incident or just as the incident occurred that also declined for last night to provide a statement, and so pending advice of counsel. And so we are also waiting for that. The final piece of evidence that I think we're processing right now is video footage. So we did obtain video footage both from the officers' body cams as well as canvassing for video along the way. We're still reviewing that video. We're still processing it. We're trying to enhance it to the degree that we can, and we're awaiting the completion of those interviews before I can really give an investigative result. This time, I think we're ready for questions.
Was there a weapon ever shown by Mr. Bowles?
We have not yet been able to speak to the officers, but to the best of my knowledge, no.
I know that sometimes these UC officers patrol off campus. What was this officer specifically doing in that location? Is that part of that area of off campus where they patrol?
Right, so the officer, he was parked just right there on Vine Street, just down from the intersection at Calhoun and McMillan, where the one-way streets are. So this is an area that we've had frequent issues with, and it is considered a part of a normal patrol route for us. So he was sitting right on the edge of campus when he observed the initial traffic violation. So we don't. Where the traffic stop ended, that was just as a result of following and initiating the procedures in running the license plate and the time it took for Mr. DuBose to stop the vehicle.
And you said that this vehicle, I guess it had rolled from one location to another. So where was the struggle initiated? Was he still in the driver's seat? I mean, do we know what happened at that point where the struggle, did it start inside the vehicle? Did he refuse to get out?
It started inside the vehicle. There was a struggle at the door with Mr. DuBose in the vehicle and the officer outside the vehicle, and the vehicle sped away.
How often do UC police officers make traffic stops on the border or in the city of Cincinnati proper?
Traffic stop is a normal function of our police activity. I don't have a number off the top of my head. It was not our primary mission, but it's not something that we shy away from either. So officers have the discretion to stop vehicles that commit traffic violations as any police officer would.
Talk about the mutual aid agreement that allows officers from the University of Cincinnati to make stops and then pursue into Cincinnati or other jurisdictions. I know there's a countywide jurisdictional agreement in place that was signed in 2013.
Yes, sir. The mutual aid agreement is in place countywide. We do share that with the Cincinnati Police Department as well, and this allows the officers to function as a police officer within the city.
But it also says that they are allowed to follow if there's a belief of a serious traffic offense that could jeopardize the public safety. Was that the situation in this case?
I think we can say at this point that's part of the investigation. That's what we're looking at, the preliminary investigation. I think when you use the term pursue, that may be different than initiate a stop. Again, the stop occurred on what would typically be considered our area. So the initial violation was observed there, I should say.
So Colonel, so he stops, the car stops on Rice, and the motor's never shut off, right? The engine's never shut off.
The engine was shut off at one point.
It was shut off.
Mhm.
So he's asked to produce a license, he doesn't produce a license,
Correct.
and then give me the details
The officer, yes, the officer wanted Mr. DuBose to step out of the car. Mr. DuBose did not want to step out of the car. There was a bit of a struggle over the door, and the vehicle drove away.
Was he injured in the physical altercation with him? Was he dragged?
Haven't been able to talk to the officer yet to determine exactly the answer to that question. The officer was knocked to the ground as a result of this.
What were the extent of his injuries?
There was bruising on his legs. His uniform had some tears to it. He received some medication at the hospital.
The mutual aid agreement talks about the idea of an on-duty officer initiating police service shall notify a law enforcement officer from the affected agency as soon as possible. Basically notifying Cincinnati. When did Cincinnati become notified of this incident? How soon after, or was it during?
Tom, the mutual relationship between the Cincinnati Police Department and the University of Cincinnati Police Department goes back maybe halfway through my career, if not earlier. Our police department and their police department operate on the same radio frequency channel. We actually operate a partner car at times where a UC officer rides with a UC officer and vice versa to handle things around the students and student activities. And so the presence of the University of Cincinnati police officer in that area has been commonly accepted and welcomed by the Cincinnati Police Department for at least a decade, if not longer.
But he made the stop initially and then initiated the stop and then followed, if you will. When did Cincinnati PD become notified of this incident as the mutual aid agreement requires?
About the time the stop occurred.
Radio traffic?
Mhm.
Or monitoring radio traffic?
So Colonel, so the struggle over the door, and then the car is restarted by?
Correct. By Mr. DuBose.
Mr. DuBose, and then, so it starts to pull. When did the shot occur? Before the officer fell to the ground, or after?
Very quickly as the car started to move and before the officer fell to the ground.
Was the officer at any one point reaching inside the car at all? And when he
I don't have
fell,
clarity on that yet. I'm waiting to enhance this video to get a better answer to that.
Did the officer, did the officer run over by the car, brushed by the car, the wheels make contact with him?
I think I was pretty clear. The car sped away and the officer fell to the ground.
So what threat was there for the officer to pull out his firearm?
And I haven't been able to talk to the officer yet to get a good answer to that question.
How far did the car travel after he was shot? So that it's
From the corner of Phil Street on Rice to the corner of Valencia on Rice, which is a little longer than a city block.
Was the car in any way damaged by the gunshot?
Not that I know of. It was damaged as it crashed at the end of the street.
You said that Mr. DuBose restarted the vehicle. So, I mean, was he trying to drive away? I mean, I'm assuming this is an automatic. There aren't many standard shifts around anymore. So, like, had he kind of put this thing into drive or neutral or something? Or
He had turned the car off at one point and removed the keys, I think for the purpose of opening the glove compartment to look for something. He then, when the officer was asking him to step out of the car and he resisted that request, he quickly reinserted the keys, started the car, and drove away.
so at which point did the officer pull out his firearm?
I think I've already answered that question. It was as the car was pulling away. Yes, ma'am.
Pulling away, so there was no threat, right?
Oh, I don't have an answer for that. I know where you're going, and I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for that until we get a chance to talk to the officers and enhance the video to get the answer to the question. Okay?
And you'll be able to talk to the officer then, Colonel, within the next 24 hours?
Should be, yes. We are working diligently to arrange that interview at this time.
I just wanted to make sure I understood this, that he was, the struggle had started while Mr. DuBose was inside the vehicle.
Correct.
And then as the struggle is happening, he starts the vehicle.
Correct.
To try to drive away, and then that's when the shot was fired.
Correct. Roughly, that is all correct.
Was he ever outside the vehicle?
Mr. DuBose? No.
I have a question, officers. What reason was he stopped? I wasn't here, I just showed up, sorry for being late. I'm representing the New Black Panther Party. I'm Detroit, local here, I live in Cincinnati, I'm a resident of Cincinnati, and I'm a county resident. But my question is, what reason did the officer, UC Cap's officer, have to stop the suspect?
The stated reason in the video is the lack of a front license plate on the vehicle, the traffic violation.
So that basically is what, a misdemeanor?
It's a traffic offense. Yes, sir.
So is it a misdemeanor traffic stop that an officer can pull his weapon to
Well-
shoot someone?
As the chief indicated, and as I mentioned, there was more to it than just the traffic stop once the car was stopped. And there was a bit of a struggle that ensued over the door and the motion of the car. Beyond that, I can't draw any conclusions until we get more information.
So you don't know what struggle occurred, you don't know how the struggle took occur, but all we know is that an African American is killed based on a misdemeanor traffic stop.
Started,
And you're trying to tell us that we should wait on you, but you didn't get with the sources before you did, and came to us and told us what we got. See, that's what I'm saying, well, it just don't sound right to the community. I'm a resident of the community, I've been here all my life. So I'm just saying, that doesn't sound right to us.
I understand what you're saying. The reason we're having this press briefing in the first place is to be as transparent as we can with the community. Right now, we just haven't had the opportunity to talk to the officers yet to get the rest of the answers to your questions. The incident, let me finish, the incident started with a traffic violation, and it escalated into some conflict between the officer and Mr. DuBose. And
You're on the outside the car.
one of each. The officer was outside, Mr. DuBose was inside.
Okay. Now, my other question is in regards to the CPD, the Cincinnati Police Department. When did all of this occur when the UC campus police is given all this authority? Because as a citizen of Cincinnati and Hamilton County, been here my whole life, I didn't get the memo on the exchange, meaning that an officer of UC can travel like a Hamilton County sheriff, state patrol, and make arrests, make stops, especially a misdemeanor stop. You see what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
when did this so-called exchange between Chief Craig, who is no longer here, or Chief Blackwell, or city manager, Mayor Mallory in the past, or Crampton?
We have worked, I don't have an exact date for you, we have worked in conjunction with the UC Police in these neighborhoods for at least the last 10 to 15 years.
But this exchange, you know, like when you all put out the OBI checkpoint, you inform the community there's gonna be a checkpoint in the neighborhood. We as a community, black, brown, red, yellow, and white, to my knowledge, I was never informed that the UC campus police, the Xavier campus police, Cincinnati State campus police can just ride around and make police stops as though they are the CPD, Hamilton County Sheriff, and State Police. I'm saying, when was the memo given out? Because I didn't get it.
I don't have an answer to your question. Any other questions?
Colonel, just one more thing for me. I want to make sure I'm clear. The officer had a body camera
Yes.
that he was wearing, so you had video from the body camera.
Yes.
You alluded to some other, is there video elsewhere in the area that you might have access?
There was some video on a building down the street that I believe, were we able to capture some video from that? Okay, so there was at least one, a lot of residential and business properties have external surveillance systems, and we always check for those. There was at least one that was located. I quite frankly don't think we've had time to look at it yet.
Is there cruiser cam as well?
There's not. Okay?
Chief, how long have you had body cameras?
They implemented those just as I was coming on in November, so I would say probably since about October of last year. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.